everyone, and welcome to another episode of Buzzy Bee Esther. So for this episode, I would like to review my morning routine announcement. In the next 20 weeks, I'll be going over what the morning routine is, why I'm focusing on it, what our liver does for us, why the liver rescue morning is so important and how to enhance it, and also I'm going to go over all the other topics I'll be covering because I'll have some recipes in there and some different things. So I actually have an outline of all the things I'll be covering. So I actually was inspired to start this series because of Gardening with Goo on Facebook and Instagram. He had a viral video for his rap to start a garden. And I actually made a poem kind of inspired by that rap. So here is the poem. Morning routine poem. I decree to start the day fat-free, so your liver can find the key and be set free of being fatty and sluggish. How, you ask? Start with a smoothie. I promise it's an easy recipe. Let's take out the perplexity and help our liver to flourish. Just throw some fruit into a blender with some water to stay slender. Your liver will thank the sender, and it will be able to accomplish all of the healing jobs that are required to help keep you from feeling tired. It will utilize all of the ingredients it acquired, and your liver will cherish the moment to help your body flourish. So I hope that that poem can help you get inspired to start a morning routine. So why have I focused on just the morning routine for the time being? So for me, I have not completely implemented all of the medical medium protocols 100%. The top tier of the no foods list includes eggs, gluten, and dairy, which are in a lot of things that I really enjoy eating. Dairy in particular has been really difficult for me to give up. So my cravings have gone down a lot since doing medical medium protocols, but I haven't completely given things up. So I always kind of go on a cleanse, and then after the cleanse I say, oh, I'm going to cheat at this party or for some kind of event. And the last time I cheated was actually on my birthday before the summer, and honestly I've been cheating ever since. But with all that cheating, I will say that the medical medium routine has been a staple in my life, and that has really just aided me in continuing to want to, follow his information in a manner that still allows me to enjoy, dinners with my family and things like that. So I'm going to get into more of that. I actually have a post coming up more particularly about, what I've been struggling with that, because I think that for me, I'm not chronically ill. And yes, I have some issues, but I'm not on Mattress Island, is what medical medium likes to say. So for me, I'm not embracing every little, nugget of information, because I am still functioning. I still do everything that I need to do. And I think a lot of people are in that boat, especially young people who are seeing all these things. And I really hope to influence, especially young people who aren't as chronically ill to want to make better decisions. Because every little thing that you do for your health really can help you go in that positive direction of not having those chronic symptoms and things like that. Okay, so just to elaborate a little bit more about why I wanted to focus on the morning routine, I kind of, with the no foods list, the gluten, the dairy, and the eggs, when I would eat them, I never really had a very severe reaction to them. That was noticeable, at least. So for me, again, I stayed pretty strict with medical medium. I would only cheat every once in a while for a solid 2 years. And then since this past May, I kind of been, experimenting with trying different things. And what I've noticed, especially because I've healed a lot, is that 3 main no foods do actually affect me. And I find that dairy definitely flares up my acne. It was hard to see that at first because my acne definitely got worse before it got better. So that's definitely an important thing to think about when you're doing the medical medium protocols, that, healing is not linear at all. So they definitely got a little worse, but now my acne has pretty much subsided, and the only time it really flares up where I have more than, one, is when I eat dairy. Also, gluten makes me itchy, so if I have a lot of cookies or I'll have a lot of pasta, sometimes I'll feel really itchy, so that's kind of a different thing. It doesn't happen all the time, so it's kind of weird how that, doesn't happen sometimes. And then eggs make me feel really lethargic. So I do eat, cakes and cookies. That's like my weakness. I love sweets. Anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely love sweets. So I definitely, eggs and cakes and cookies don't really bother me too much. But I had eggs for the first time in like 2 years just as a breakfast with some cheese on top when I was down the shore, and it made me feel really terrible. So that made me realize how, eggs really never really made me feel great in the first place, but not being on eggs for so long for breakfast, which I didn't actually enjoy that often, like I would only enjoy them on the weekends sometimes, it made me really realize how bad they made me feel. So, as a side note too, for cravings and things like that, the medical medium says that it's not you that's craving those things, it's actually the pathogens inside you that might be craving those things. So in my case, I definitely think it's the strep inside of me. I definitely probably have some intense antibiotic strains or antibiotic resistant strains in me, which is partly why I'm having such a hard time giving it up. So I kind of keep that in the back of my head, and I have definitely lessened my intake of dairy because I used to have it literally with every meal. Now I only have it for dinner, if that. I do try to stay dairy-free most days. But like I said, this is an honest review of the medical medium lifestyle, and that's a really, really tough one for me to give up right now. So, despite all those problems, again, my morning routine has stayed solid throughout my entire starting medical medium, and I really, really highly recommend that you start with just a morning routine, and that will really help you. So the next section I want to focus on is what our liver does for us. We learned about the liver. We know that if we drink, our liver can get diseased and we could die if we're alcoholic, right? But that's about the most I knew about our liver. I knew that it filtered out the alcohol that we drink, and that's it. So this book, The Liver Rescue by Anthony William, the medical medium, really dives deep into what exactly our liver does for us. And a lot of this is not known by medical research and science, because they just, one, maybe not have the means to evaluate and look at that, because obviously they're not cutting open living livers. So it's just a completely different, bucket of knowledge that Anthony has given to us. So I want to start with talking about a quote from Anthony William. So, the liver prepares ahead of time and cleans us up after we make mistakes. It's a storehouse, a filter, a processing center, a garbage service, and more. It shields you, it protects you, and it defends you from every angle. This was on page 5 of The Liver Rescue by Anthony William. In The Liver Rescue, there are 7 chapters dedicated to what the heck the liver does. And this is all in part 1, which is Your Liver's True Calling, Miracle Peacekeeper. So in chapter 1, he talks about what the liver does for us. Chapter 2 is our adaptogenic liver, processing fat and protecting the pancreas. Chapter 3 is your life-giving liver, glucose and glycogen storage. Chapter 4 is your medicinal liver, vitamin and mineral storage. Chapter 5 is your protective liver, disarming and detaining harmful materials. Chapter 6 is your purifying liver, screening and filtering blood. And Chapter 7 is your heroic liver, the liver's immune system. So obviously that's a lot of pages that he focuses on that, and by the time I was done writing up the rest of my blog here, I'm already at 9 pages. So I just kind of took out a couple pieces of information that I remembered from the book when I read it that I thought were really interesting. So I'm just going to say those things here. But again, those 7 chapters alone, there's so much good information in there. And there's a whole section about weight gain and things like that, which I'll go over in a second. But if you're struggling with weight gain and holding on to extra weight, and you've tried the diets and all that stuff and it's not working, then I highly recommend you read this book too. I'm in that same boat, and I will be doing a whole nother post about all of that too. So let me know if you're interested in the comments below. So in chapter 6, the medical medium mentions that the liver has these nodules that basically like sort and sweep through all the stuff that's coming through our blood into our liver, because our liver filters out our blood. It does a lot of other things too. So he actually calls these little nodules elves, and I just really like that visual, because like just picturing little elves like sorting through everything, working for us, being there for us is really, really cool image for me. These little elves or nodules sort through and are constantly working to make sure that all the bad stuff ends up getting discarded and all the good stuff goes into storage. Because our liver stores all kinds of nutrients, all kinds of phytochemicals. Sunlight meditation that medical medium talks about, how just visualizing you bathing in the sun can help your liver store sunlight. So I'm not exactly sure what that is or how that works, but I thought that was a really interesting concept in the one meditation. The liver is very intelligent and anticipates when we will eat fat. So it knows us, it can anticipate our routines, and it will actually go into that bile creating mode when it's anticipating us eating fats and unhealthy things. The liver needs to break down that fat, because really fat isn't used in the body, so it really needs to break it down and discard it pretty much. And finally, weight gain. So the medical medium dedicates an entire 6 pages on weight gain and why it happens. The liver rescue morning can help with this, but if you need more help with losing weight, or you have a little bit more to lose, then you really want to focus on staying low fat through the entire day. I've had the most success when I've been doing cleanses, which were basically no fat for the entire cleanse. The original 369, I would have some animal protein for the first 3 days, but then those next 6 days I would have, salads with no olive oil dressing, things like that, like none of that. So all the dressings that the medical medium has and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, you can find a ton of his recipes for free on his blog. And I'm also making the ASMR videos and the voiceovers to tell you what these ingredients do for us. So definitely look out for that as well. I really, really, really recommend that you read Liver Rescue, because it's so powerful, and all of his books are really, really awesome. So check it out. So what is the morning routine? In Liver Rescue, the medical medium really defines, what it is, how we can help enhance it, and all this kind of stuff. And it really comes down to 2 bullet points that were highlighted in the middle. It's basically hydrating and staying fat-free. That's it. That's what the morning routine is. You need to be hydrated and stay fat-free. Now, there are certain routines you can do to enhance that. Definitely do quite a few things to stay hydrated, but at the very least, that's what you need to do. Pages 334 to 338 in Liver Rescue, he outlines the importance of the liver rescue morning. And he also has the Liver Rescue morning routine in Cleanse to Heal. So take out, all the books kind of give you a little bit of different information. So it's really comprehensive if you read all of his work all together. And that's also partly why I wanted to start this channel, is to kind of help you connect the dots with that kind of stuff. Because I know when I first started, it was a lot of information, and like, where do you start? Start with the morning routine at the very least. It's easy to implement. Take out the perplexity, like the poem, and you'll be on the right track. So why do we need to do the morning routine? Well, the liver actually detoxes throughout the morning. And Anthony William explains that the liver goes to sleep the same time we do, to get a little bit of a rest. He says how intelligent the liver is, and basically it's like own entity. And it can be emotional too if we keep bombarding it with fats and toxins and not hydrating it and taking care of it the way it needs to be taken care of, so it can take care of us. So the liver goes to sleep the same time we do. It wakes up in the morning around 3 or 4 a.m. It can start cleaning and sorting out all the toxins we pick up through the previous day or even previous years, because especially if you've eaten a lot of fats, the standard American diet is a lot of fats and toxins with all the chemicals and things we use. So more than likely your liver's going to be working on years of stuff trying to clean it and get it going. So your liver knows that you won't be drinking an espresso or fatty meals during these early morning hours while you're still sleeping, most people at least. So it starts doing all these cleansing functions. When you wake up, the blood is actually dirty, because the liver's like, okay, we got to get rid of all this to get your body to discard these toxins and things. So in order to do that, you have to hydrate. So hydrating, like something as simple as just 16 ounces of lemon water. So for 16 ounces, you use half a lemon. For 32 ounces, you use a whole lemon. Also, you could do lime water. So for 16 ounces, you do 1 lime. For 32 ounces, you do 2 limes. Start with the lemon or lime water, and then that will really help flush out all of those toxins. And that goes out through your urinary tract. So it's important to try and use the restroom every 2 hours in the morning, the medical medium said, if you're hydrated properly. If you don't start the day with lemon or lime water, you can also start with celery juice, cucumber juice, are other 2 options. Also, fruit smoothies and plain fruit are really hydrating as well. So there's a lot of different options. And for me, I actually like to do the lemon. I do 32 ounces of lemon or lime water, and then I go on to 32 ounces of celery juice. And it ranges. Sometimes it's 24 ounces, sometimes it's 32, but I do try to do that routine with the half hour in between, which sometimes ends up being 20 in the morning when I'm like trying to get to work, but I'll explain more of that later. The reason why we have to stay away from fats in the detox window is because the minute you start eating radical fats like coconut, eggs, bacon, milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, whey protein, turkey, chicken, sausage, ham, any seeds or seed oils, or avocado even, nuts, all of that stuff are radical fats. So the minute you start eating those radical fats, the liver stops detoxing, stops organizing things, stops trying to, get rid of all the stuff that it did, and it actually starts producing bile to process all that fat that it really isn't used in the body. All that dirty blood that, all the toxins are circulating, that has to get processed again by the liver, and just the liver pretty much holds on to it until it has a chance to process and get rid of it, hopefully the next morning or whenever you can hydrate it the right way. Medical medium has also mentioned that pretty much every protein source is a radical fat. Like everything that I just listed above, you could say is protein except for avocado and coconut. We don't generally associate avocado and coconut with protein, but they are a radical fat. Just be mindful of that. So, that fruit smoothie in the morning, don't make it a peanut butter fruit smoothie. Okay? Stay away from it. And you will really, really do your liver a favor. If you're worried about consuming too little fat in the morning, just realize that every single fruit and veggie has a little bit of fat in it. So you should not worry about that. And also, coconut water is fine to eat in the morning because it does not have fat in it. Just be careful to stay away from the pink coconut water, because that's not good for you. It's just means that it's pretty much old. The meat of the coconut and coconut cream have fat in it, so stay away from that. That avocado toast and all that kind of stuff, definitely stay away from, because avocado is a fat. While it's an amazing food and it's very healing for other things, especially if you're trying to get off of animal protein and things, then you want to stay away from it in the morning. The medical medium actually has a podcast out that goes over, how you can use the avocado to kind of wean yourself off of a really high fat diet if you're used to the standard American diet. So I highly recommend you check out his podcast on Apple Podcasts. So next up, we have how do we enhance the liver rescue morning? So the medical medium actually talks about 2 types of water that are very, very hydrating. One is hydrobioactive water, and the other is Cofactor Water. So he describes a little bit more about this in Life-Changing Foods, which I did take some quotes from Life-Changing Foods and Liver Rescue to put this together. The hydrobioactive water holds life-giving nutrients to support your physical health and hydrate your cells much better than a drink of plain water. The plain water is pretty much dead, and it doesn't have that living juice from the fruits and veggies and things like that. So that's on page 336 of Liver Rescue. In Life-Changing Foods, he tells us that the hydrobioactive water replenishes the body and feeds the bloodstream on page 31. You can find this hydrobioactive water in any kind of lemon, lime, cucumbers in your water. You can put aloe gel, so you buy the leaves in the market and cut out 2 inches of the gel and blend that up into a blender. That's really, really activating. Coconut water is really good in smoothies. Smoothies are really good, fresh veggies, all that kind of stuff has this hydrobioactive water. And all of this helps hydrate the liver and remove toxins from the liver. So next up we have Cofactor Water, and Cofactor Water actually has nutrients that specifically feed you on a soul level. That's also on page 336 of Liver Rescue. This water gives you an emotional advantage, just like I was saying earlier that your liver is emotional, so this actually helps that. In Life-Changing Foods, MM states that Cofactor Water has trace minerals, mineral salts, enzymes, and phytochemicals that specifically feed us spiritually and emotionally. This helps keep us alive on a soul level. So that's on page 31. Our livers are emotional. So Ben actually has a story in his liver rescue book about how someone who has a transplant of a liver actually takes on the emotions of the previous owner. And he knows that because the person may have known the person that they adopted the liver from. So it was very interesting. We can give our liver an emotional advantage by giving them these two types of water. So that's really cool. Now on page 31 in Life-Changing Foods, he kind of talks a little bit more about how both of these waters are in pretty much every fruit and veggie you can think of, and they're divided by cell walls inside of the fruits and veggies. When we eat them, these cell walls break down, so they just look like one water. Our bodies know the difference and can utilize it in those different ways. He does also state that science and research, when they go into an apple or any kind of fruit and veggie and try to study this water, they only have found the hydrobioactive water, because pretty much the cofactor water, when you cut open the apple or any kind of fruit and veggie and study it, those cell walls break down, so they can't see and distinguish the difference. He mentions that if research and science starts studying a plant like we study the blood and lymph systems of the human body, that we'll really see how these two different types of water are separate but aligned. So I thought that was a really cool thing that he talks about in his book. So are you worried about protein in the morning and skipping it if you're really used to having that protein? Some people think that they need that protein to feel fuller longer in the mornings, and I actually used to be one of them. So when I would used to have just fruit or oatmeal, that would only keep me satisfied for a couple hours, compared to if I would have bacon, egg, and sausage sandwich that would keep me full for pretty much the entire morning into the afternoon. It's a valid thing to think. However, the medical medium says that full feeling is actually deceptive. It doesn't accurately reflect what we need. The medical medium talks about how what the body really needs is glucose. It needs that sugar. The glucose is what pretty much runs our entire body. It runs our brain. It runs all of the things in our body. I actually found a quote on his blog that talks about fruit fear. And in the quote, it says, "That's right, your brain runs on sugar," which is glucose. It's not fat. Every single movement you take, tasks you do, thoughts you think, and words you speak requires glucose. Your brain heats up when you think, and it requires sugar to keep it cool. This explains the instinctual cravings for sugar that we experience during highly emotional and stressful situations in our life. Like antifreeze acts as a coolant for an overheated car, the glucose we get from eating fruit helps to calm and cool our brains. So this is on his blog. And I actually linked his blog in my blog, so you can check that out. I will also link his blog below, so you can also check that out. So fruits and vegetables also have proteins and amino acids in them. So the most bioavailable protein that our bodies can use are in leafy greens. The most high protein sources like eggs, turkey, bacon, coconut, whey protein, etc. are also high in fat, and their main calorie source is fat. Remember, fat stops the liver detoxing process, and that's why we need to stay away from it. So pretty much stay away from protein as well. On that note, we should also stay away from caffeine. So caffeine really puts the adrenals in overdrive, and anytime your adrenals make adrenaline because it's either in fight or flight or we're having caffeine, the liver has to process that, and adrenaline is very corrosive to the body, so we want to be careful about overburdening our bodies with that adrenaline, and really save it for those stressful fight or flight moments instead of kind of activating it with that caffeine. So try to stay away from caffeine. For me, I gave up coffee pretty much after I did my first 369 cleanse when I first started medical medium, a couple years ago. I had a cup of coffee after I did that cleanse, and I just felt so jittery. It really doing these cleanses really makes me get more in tune with my body and feel what these foods are doing to it. So I really, everything he talks about is just really awesome. We're going to talk more now about blood sugar and glucose and why it's so important to stay away from that protein and fat in the morning. So going back to the idea of our body needing sugar and glucose to run, we can understand why it's important to eat every 2 hours. In the Liver Rescue book, Medical Medium explains that Blood sugar can drop anywhere between 45 minutes to a couple of hours after a meal, depending on what people are dealing with neurologically and other sensitivities they may have. If someone is more sensitive, or they have a viral load or other pathogenic load, then their blood sugar may drop quicker because, that glucose is being used to try and fight that infection or whatever might be going on. When the blood sugar drops, the liver uses reserve glucose and sugar to make things work inside the body. Most people don't have a very high reserve of glucose in the liver because of the standard American diet. And if that is the case, then adrenaline kicks in. And I know I've already talked about adrenaline with caffeine, so it's the same thing. That corrosive adrenaline affects our livers and nervous system in very negative ways. So also, fat also blocks glucose from being absorbed properly. Therefore, if you have, a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich with maybe a little bit of lettuce and tomato on it, you're not going to utilize those glucose stores in those fruits and veggies as much as if you just had a smoothie in the morning or celery juice or something like that. The medical medium also mentions that people with a protein-rich diet sometimes still feel hungry, and the reason is because they're lacking that glucose that's needed to run their bodies. A fruit-filled morning can leave you very, very satisfied. And if at first you're not feeling satisfied, it could be because you're working on building up those glucose reserves. So just stay on track with it, keep at it, and eventually you'll feel even better than you ever have before. And I know that was me. So in my mornings before I found medical medium, I would have a coffee and a protein bar with whey protein, something in there. At first I was eating Zone bars, which were high in sugar, which was actually bad. So processed sugar, white sugar that you find in a lot of cakes and cookies is not great. Any medical medium recipe, he really goes with like coconut sugar and things like that. So keep that in mind too. So while sugar is imperative and you need to have it in your system, you still want to stay away from those cakes and cookies and all that kind of stuff, because fruit sugar, natural sugars, coconut water, celery juice, all of that kind of stuff is going to heal you way more than table sugar and processed sugar. For me, eating the Zone Perfect bars, and I also had the one bar which was 1 gram of protein, I would have heartburn and headaches and all kinds and just be miserable. I wasn't enjoying, that routine. So I was a teacher, most of my career having that routine, and I was always miserable going into the morning. So this routine has really made me even keel and, just enjoying life in general. So it works. It really, really does. Last but not least, I want to review what I'm going to be covering in these next 20 weeks. And I'll even have more recipes after this next 20 weeks, just going over some morning routine things. So first, next week, I'm going to actually talk about my summer struggle bus, because I really kind of took a dip with following medical medium protocols in the summer. But again, that my morning routine stayed solid. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about that. Then I want to talk about reasons to start your day with lemon water. The week 3 is going to be reasons to start your day with celery juice. Then we're going to get into breakfast options overview. So I'm going to include in weeks, so during this, it's actually from weeks 5 to 15 is this section. I'm going to be covering, do an ASMR video of just the recipe, and then I will do a voiceover of explaining, what this does, and kind of cover what I go over in my blog. So I'm going to start with air fried potatoes for 2 weeks with some different seasoning options, potato hash, especially if you're struggling with feeling hungry in the morning with just fruit. I highly recommend doing the potato options. I'm going to get into an aloe cooler smoothie, a banana mango spinach smoothie, which is one of my favorites, a watermelon or cantaloupe smoothie, super, super simple, again, taking out that perplexity. And then also just having plain fruit if you're short on time, like grabbing a couple things. So there's some options for that. Then after I get into some of those recipes, I want to talk about how I started to become an early riser, which I definitely still love sleeping in, but becoming an early riser has helped me stay on a routine this school year. I'm going to talk about supplements the following week and how I have changed that slightly with my morning routine. My work morning routine specifically, it kind of goes along with that early riser stuff and kind of how I am getting up early and making things fresh. So there's actually going to be a progression, because when I first started medical medium, It was during COVID, so I was at home for a little bit, then I was at school with not a lot of kids. Now I'm at school full time with my full schedule, so, you know, just kind of talking about how that routine has changed for me through those different phases of following medical medium. And then weeks 19 and 20, I'm going to go over liver morning meditation. So I'm going to guide you through some meditations that you can do to help give some love and light to your liver and help it process, you know, all the bad stuff so it can heal. And then week 20 and beyond, I'm going to have more recipes. So I just wrote down some that I want to cover. Oatmeal cookies, orange creamsicle smoothie, which is, again, one of my favorites. Apple pie smoothie, pumpkin pie smoothie, especially in the fall. I love those kind of things. And finally, I did not mention this before, but the heavy metal detox smoothie was a staple for a long, long time in my routine. But I actually have 3 videos out for that, and I will link them below as well. But I go over what the heavy metal detox cleanse is. It's also a morning cleanse. And I also go over the heavy metal detox smoothie recipe and also what all of the ingredients do for you in detail. So I take all of my information from all of the resources Medical Medium has. I use, I have all the books, so I kind of take pieces from that. And I also use his blogs to enhance the information, that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.